Hello everyone, I'm Shalika De Silva. On behalf of Samadhi Buddhist Foundation, I would like to welcome all of you to our this month's Clarity of Mind through Mindfulness session. As you all of you know, 2 months ago we started the series of Dhamma talks on 10 perfections. So today is the third perfection, which is the renunciation. So now I would like to invite our teacher, Venerable Chandarathana Thero, to commence today's session. Teruan Sarnai Bante.
Everyone, Sanai, hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, Bante.
Fine, great. So today, as Shalika mentioned, we are going to discuss the third perfection. Probably, if you like, you can come closer. So I am conducting this session while being in Kalalgoda. So some participants are lively participating here, and little bit of rain is also happening. And so let me share my screen so that you can see this thing. Okay, hope you can see my screen.
Yes, Bante, we can see the screen.
So as you know, renunciation is an interesting subject for some, and some others it is not an interesting subject, because there is something we don't like, because we want to have something, we want to hold something, and sometimes we are attached to so many things. So as a result of that, renunciation is not something encouraged. Rather than, people are always encouraged to have so many things, possess so many things, and that is how we all are conducting ourselves, especially as lay people. And nekamma actually means letting go, and the letting go has various levels, and we'll discuss this in the session. But in general, there's an interesting Dhammapada verse, that's what I have referred here. Matta sukha parichaga passeche vipulang sukham. Chaje matta sukham dhiro sampassang vipulang sukham. So this is a very interesting theme, where you do some kind of a trade in a way, where you have seen greater happiness, but not yet available. So what you do is, by looking forward that greater happiness, you let go or renunciate what is lower. Say, by renouncing a lesser happiness, if you can achieve greater happiness, and then you might even renounce that lesser happiness, looking forward that greater happiness. Now, say for example, you all have come here, you all have participated here, searching some kind of a happiness. I mean, without kind of a gain, without kind of happiness, you are not doing anything. So that happiness might not be available at the moment, but we are looking forward to that, and we have kind of a direction, we have some kind of an idea about it, and that may be spiritual, and looking forward that you have given up certain other things. I mean, while being at home, you probably could have watched the TV, watch a movie, listen to music, and have a kind of a friendly chat with others, and could have participated to a party or gone to the petrol shed. So many things are available, even though that is not an interesting thing. By the way, so many things are available for you to do, but you have given up all those worldly things, and but you have come here, and now you are observing precepts. And precepts include even, Nacha Gita Vadita Visuga Dasana Mala. That means, so you have given up all the entertainments. So we are not watching movies, we are not watching music, and etc. So those kinds of entertainment, basically, at least for temporary, we have abandoned, we have given up. Why? Because we are looking forward something greater, kind of a greater happiness, kind of a better happiness, some sublime happiness, and that's what we do. So therefore, that's why Buddha mentioned in this Dhammapada verse, Matta Sukha Parichaga. So Matta Sukha means a little, kind of a little happiness. Matta Sukha Parichaga, by giving up, by renouncing little happiness, and Passeche Vipulang Sukham, we are looking forward something greater. And Chaje Matta Sukham Dhiro, Sampassang Vipulang Sukham. So the wise person renounce the lesser, having regard for greater happiness. Now, as I mentioned, so this renunciation has greater impact coming from letting go, and it is very much against craving because craving is the opposite. So we are craving for so many things. Either it could be something physical, something sensual, and we have various motivations, we have various ambitions, and then we are going after them, or we want to get rid of something. So all three categories are there when we consider craving. That's why kama tanha, bhava tanha, and vibhava tanha. So kama tanha basically means, say, you want to enjoy yourself, you want to gratify the senses. So through the eyes, you want to look at various sights. Those are enjoyable. And again, you want to hear music, that is the sound coming through your ears. That's another enjoyment. And through the nose, you want to experience fair amount of incense or whatever the smells that are also enjoyable. And through the tongue, you need to experience various tastes, so that those are also enjoyable. And again, through the body, you need to experience something present. Those are the tangibles. And so likewise, we are constantly looking after, constantly looking forward, constantly expecting these pleasures. And that is what people are doing. So as much as possible, trying to satisfy senses, and we are going after the pleasure principle in that sense. So that is very much the kama tanha. And not only that, even for the kama tanha, there are other aspects. Say you want reputation, you want to become a kind of a reputed person, and you want to have various other possessions, and probably you want to have kind of a good education. And all these promote kind of a self-view, and that also another kind of an attribute of this kama tanha, where you are looking forward so many things, and actually has a kind of a shade of bhavatanha as well. The bhavatanha is a very subtle, and it is operating in our mind in a kind of a hidden way, that we are always having kind of a goal, always have kind of an ambition, kind of a motivation. So if I would become a doctor, I'll be happy. If I would become an engineer, I would be happy. If I would be able to migrate to Australia, I would be happy. Nowadays, Sri Lankans are trying hard to migrate here and there, and they even try illegal migrations. So I mean, if I would have this, then I'll be happy. So likewise, we are having kind of a urge coming from ourselves. So sometimes Buddha call it as inclination in the mind. So if you carefully investigate your mind, so there's a kind of an inclination in the mind. So mind is inclined towards some kind of a say motivation, kind of a goal, kind of a say ambition, and it could be even spiritual as well. I mean, that is necessary in that sense, but mostly people are not motivated in that sense, but rather they have some worldly kind of ambitions. So that is what driving them. So they are constantly being driven by these motivations, these bhavatanha. And the opposite is the vibhava tanha. Say you are going through some problem, some difficulties are there, you are not comfortable, then you want to immediately get rid of it. Kind of a urge come to get out of it, get rid of it. So that desire to get rid of it is the vibhava tanha. So you are motivated by that. You can't endure it. You can't be patient with it, and now you want to get rid of it. And when you want to get rid of it, you have a kind of a goal. I need to achieve that. I need to become that. I want to become him. So likewise, so these two things are very much closely coupled. And how you are going to motivate you may have some connection to satisfaction of the senses as well. Then all three are fairly working together. So different shades are there. So these three types of tanha are very closely interacting, closely interrelated, and operating within ourselves. Now, if we are considering a full kind of nekam, full kind of renunciation, then we have to address all these areas. Not just renunciating something physical and say giving up something to a beggar or something, and then you are expecting something more. Rather, I mean, we have to go deeply investigating what kind of desires are rooted in our mind, and then we have to abandon them slowly. I mean, it's a kind of a gradual process. We can't do it immediately. It's a kind of a gradual process. And then there's interesting stories and interesting suttas available in the Sutta Pitaka. One sutta is called Tapasu Sutta. So here, one Brahmin called Tapasu. So Tapasa. So he approached Venerable Ananda while Venerable Ananda and Buddha was staying at that area, and he explained Venerable Ananda Bhante that I have seen that you all monks are spending time without anything, without much attachments, without much belongings, spending some time on the under the trees, maybe on in forests, having nothing basic, but you are feel like quite uplifted, quite happy, enjoying it. But we, on the other hand, now he's a layperson, we, on the other hand, we feel frightened to do like that. So if I renounce everything, if I renounce my house, if I renounce my car, if I renounce my, say, mother, father, children, so I'll be fully feel unsafe. So that's what this Brahmin Tapasa is mentioning. So how are you doing it? So he's asking the question. Then what Venerable Ananda did was, he mentioned that this is a very good topic to discuss with the Buddha. Let's go and meet the Buddha. Now they approached Buddha. Both went there. And then Venerable Ananda introduced Tapasa to Buddha, and then he asked this Tapasa to ask the question, and then he put the question. And then Buddha, interestingly, and he admit that even before became the Buddha, certain desires were available in his mind. Because you know, Buddha was a prince before he became the Buddha, and enough luxuries were given so that he was bound to the lay life, and he was attached to certain things. And he admit, and he mentioned that, so those, I myself, while I was a layman, I have seen the advantage of these things, but I couldn't implement it immediately. So it seems like, so the Buddha to be, the Bodhisattva, has realized the advantage of the Nekkhamma, renunciation, before he did it at the age of 29. It is not a kind of a thought came immediately. Rather, he developed it stage by stage. So here in this sutta, Buddha mentioned, so early stages, I knew there is something. I knew that there is something in the renunciation, but I couldn't implement it. My mind was not that matured to do it, to let it go of. So what I did later, so I developed that. So that's what mentioned here. So at a later time, having seen the drawback of sensual pleasures, I pursued that theme. Having understood the reward of renunciation, I familiarized myself with it. It's a kind of a gradual process. I mean, you are recognizing disadvantages of the sensual pleasures. What are the drawbacks? And on the other hand, what are the advantages of a renunciative life? Maybe a monk's life, or letting go of everything, at least participating in a retreat and at least forgetting your lay activities for a couple of days. So it's a kind of a temporary renunciation. And you are with 8 precepts or maybe 10 precepts. So likewise. Now, in order to come here, in order to achieve it, still you have to do some kind of a thinking so that you understand the value of it. Spending time bound to certain precepts, not doing any kind of an entertainment, but having kind of a spiritual goal. So that has to be cultivated within yourself. So that's what Buddha mentioned here. So later I understood the advantage, so I developed myself so that I can do it. My heart leaped up at renunciation, grew confident, steadfast and firm, seeing it as peace. Now after he has developed, then his mind is now fairly focused in renunciation and he's ready to do it. And then quite withdrawn from sensuality, withdrawn from unskillful qualities, I entered and remained in the first jhana. Now he's explained how he was able to renunciate all the sensual desires and was able to spend time in the jhana. So I'll cover that later. So likewise, it is something that gradually developing. Now, just to give you an example, now some people are visiting Nisarnavanaya just for a couple of days. They can't spend long time because, you know, I mean, there are a lot of attachments and they want to go back. They want to probably have to see children or have to see the wife or whatever. And now after a couple of days, they are returning. So again, they are coming. Next time, probably they spend a little bit more time, maybe 4 days, 5 days they spend. Next time again, they come and they even participate 10 days retreat. I mean, this is kind of a gradual process. So you can't do it immediately. Maybe you are coming just for 1 day at the very early time, just 1 day retreat. Maybe later, 3 days retreat. Later, maybe 5 days retreat. Later, maybe 10 days retreat. And then you become kind of a participant, regular participant, and you are doing many retreats. I'm just giving that focus. So likewise, you are now developing kind of a skill in yourself, and now slowly you understand the advantage. You understand the advantage, and later, even at home, you feel like you renunciated already, isn't it? I mean, even at home, you are not much attached. Now you are at home, but living kind of a monk's life. So some people are there. I mean, even though they have a lot of rich, I mean, items, maybe a lot of luxuries, still, if we consider their mindset, so not much attached. So that's an interesting phenomenon. And on the other hand, there are some poor people, they can't let go even a petty thing. That is also there. So that is explained very well in something called Latuki Kopuma Sutta. Latuki Kopuma Sutta, so Buddha is taking as a simile of one little bird. So it is very attached, I mean, really attached to a small nest, just a tiny one. Can't let go of that. But another person who can simply break away or completely, say, abandon even a luxurious things. So that's how our mind is sort of matured or developed. And then there's another one interesting sutta. It's called Badhya Sutta, coming in Udana Pali. So here, actually, Venerable Badhya was a king. Before he became a monk, he was a king. And you know, I mean, even like today, so they are being well guarded. So a lot of security guards are there. From the front, they are being guarded by one escort. Then the flights, they are guarded by another escort. From behind, they are guarded by another escort. Are they feeling quite happily? We think like that. So Venerable Badhya is after becoming a monk. So he, wherever he go, he mentioned, oh, it's really blissful. It's what a bliss, what a bliss. That's what Venerable Badhya was telling. Then it became a kind of a, you know, curiosity for the other monks. So why this Venerable Badhya was everywhere, wherever he go, he's mentioning what a bliss, what a bliss. And then it came to the Buddha as a kind of a rumor. Then Buddha asked, okay, ask Venerable Badhya to come here. Ask Venerable Badhya to come here. And then Venerable Badhya come. So after that, Buddha asked, is it true that you are, wherever you go, that you are mentioning it's a bliss? It's a bliss. What a bliss. Yes, Bhante. Then Buddha asked, why? I mean, what's exactly the reason that you are mentioning like that? Then he explained how he spent time as a layman, as a king. So he was mentioning, I was a king. I was guarded from all directions. Many security guards were there. But I was spending time fearful. So you can see, I mean, even though he's a king, not happy. So he is a little afraid. He can't move freely. He didn't have freedom, even though he's the king. So Venerable Badhya here mentioned, before when I was a householder, maintaining the bliss of kingship, I had guards posted within and without the royal apartments, within and without the city, within and without the countryside. But even though I was thus guarded, thus protected, I dwelled in fear, agitated, distrustful, and afraid. Now people are trying to become a king. Maybe the vice president, maybe the president, maybe the prime minister, but living fearfully. So anyway, now he is explaining, but now on going alone to a forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty dwelling, I dwell without fear, unagitated, confident, and unafraid, unconcerned, unruffled, my wants satisfied with my mind like a wild deer. So now he is quite free, and there are no thieves, there are no other people to come and rob, there are no one to threat, because he has nothing, basically, just a monk. So kind of a different approach in a way. So what Buddha trying to highlight in the renunciation, in Nekkhamma, so that is what Venerable Bhaddiya highlights to Buddha. So that is why I am explaining, okay, what a bliss. So wherever I go, I have nothing much. So I feel quite confident, nothing much to protect. And then I feel blissful. In terms of the mind, I feel blissful. So that's why I am talking what a bliss. So this is the explanation Venerable Bhaddiya is given. And then actually Buddha made a udana, kind of an explanation, adding another deep aspect to the situation. And there are another interesting findings available in various places in the Sutta Pitaka. So who has abandoned sensual pleasures have a good sleep. So this is a sound night sleep. So probably, I mean, you might think, so if I have so much of luxurious beds, maybe some soft music. But if you are burning with lust, you can't sleep. If you are burning with a lot of doubts, you can't sleep. If you are burning with a lot of desires, you can't sleep. If you are burning with a lot of anger, you can't sleep. Even though you have so much of luxurious items around you, you may be on a huge, say, luxury bed, but you can't sleep. So sleeping is a different thing. It doesn't really matter whether you have so much of things or you don't have much of things. Now it's this interesting verse in this Hattaka Sutta. Actually, so Buddha is explained to this Hattaka Alavaka. So, Sabbadave Sukhang Seti Brahmano Parinibbuto Yona Limpati Kamesu Siti Bhuto Nirupani. So Buddha mentioned he always sleeps well. The Brahmin who has attained Nibbana, cooled off without acquisitions, not tainted by sensual pleasures. And then Sabba Asattiyo Chetva Vinaya Hadaye Daram Upasanto Sukhang Seti Santing Papuya Chetasoti. Having cut off all attachments, having removed anguish in the heart, the peaceful one sleeps well, having attained peace of mind. Now the peace of mind is what highlighted. So if you have peace of mind, then you can sleep well. Either you have so many other things around or not, you can sleep well if you have peace of mind. So here, if the mind is crowded with a lot of sensual desires, crowded with anger, crowded with anguish, crowded with various perplexities, can't sleep well. So likewise, I mean, these are different things that we can look at our life. It is not always satisfying senses. It is not always acquiring things. And we can even think, by acquiring things, I might feel burdened, or I might feel confident, or I might feel safe. How many things now I have to safeguard? How many things I have to protect? On the other hand, if you have only little things, only the essential items, and those are also maybe basics, and others are also having it, most probably, then you don't have much to worry. I mean, assume that you have 10 clothes, maybe not 10, maybe 100 clothes, two, 3 cars. Nowadays, now you have to go, how many queues then you have to go through if you have 3 cars? So likewise, so more items, and we think that, I mean, we'll be happy, but in contrary, we have to look after all these things. I mean, becomes kind of a burden. Now, another interesting point is the fearless death, Abhaya Sutta. So in this sutta, Buddha highlights how one can face death without fear. So yesterday also we discussed something related to death in Anatha Pindukovada Sutta. Now in this sutta, Buddha mentioned, so there is the case of the person who has abandoned passion, desire, fondness, thirst, fever, and craving for sensuality. Then he comes down with a serious disease. Now, diseases are possible. Even though you are spiritually developed, diseases are unavoidable. And there may be less, by the way, because there is no much of a psychological impact, because your mind is fairly cooled, and so that psycho aspect is fairly less. So that so there won't be much of burning happens from internally, but still you have to go through aging process. The body is decaying and unavoidable. Different diseases are unavoidable. Venerable Sariputta went through kind of a diarrhea at the last moment, and he himself actually had kind of a severe pain because of a stomach ache. That's where when Venerable Moggallana went to certain places and tried to get some medicine, and Buddha himself went through many diseases. So likewise, even for Arahants, even for Buddhas, so these diseases are common because we are all using just a common body. I mean, just a vulnerable body. So that is unavoidable. So here, by the way, what Buddha mentioned is, now beforehand, so this particular person has abandoned all the desires, all the passion, fondness, thirst, fever. Now these are the burning parts. And now he is coming across face kind of a disease. But the important thing is, as he comes down with a serious disease, the thought does not occur to him, oh, those beloved sensual pleasures will be taken from me, and I will be taken from them. Now people are adding their own suffering to the picture because they have so much of attachment other than the disease that they have. Now they don't want to get departed from all the other attachments. So that is where they suffer more, other than the physical problem. So that is what highlighted here. In contrary, in the other hand, a person who has renunciated, a person who has nothing much to protect, so even though he has kind of a severe disease, serious disease, but he can maintain kind of a peaceful mind. So he does not grieve, not tormented, not lamenting, not weeping. And Buddha explained, beating his breast. And this person who is subject to death is not afraid or terror of death. Oh, that is an interesting point. I mean, more we have closer to the death and more we attached, as we discussed even yesterday, say people are coming and crying and they are maybe reminding, father don't go, mother don't go, so we'll be helpless without you, and so much of things are waiting, and this many cars are there, whatever it is. So if they start to wait, I mean, they start to tell like that, so this person will be really attached to it, and he can't have a peaceful death. So here in this particular sutta, so Buddha mentioned, so this fearless death is possible for a person who is basically free from any of the desires. Now, if you consider even the attainments, say going from one jhana to another jhana, say first jhana to second jhana to third jhana to fourth jhana. Now I am talking in terms of samatha. Now, advancement means letting go, even at the samatha level. Now you see, till your mind is crowded with hindrances, you can't achieve first jhana. So all hindrances have to be abandoned in order to achieve first jhana. So that's why it's mentioned. I mean, vivicheva kamehi, vivicha akusalehi dhammehi, savitakpan savicharam, vivekajam pitisukam, pataman jhanam upasampajja vihirati. So likewise, again and again, it is explained. So till your mind is crowded with various hindrances, you can't have concentration. So all those desires, all those kama chanda, sensual desires, have to be abandoned. All those grudges have to be abandoned. All the sloth and torpor have to be abandoned. All the doubts have to be abandoned. All the restlessness have to be abandoned. Then mind is cool. Then mind is concentrated. Probably one can achieve first jhana. Interesting point is, now in order to go to the second jhana, sometimes we think that we have to acquire things. But opposite, you have to abandon things. So now you are abandoning very subtle aspects. Now again and again, approaching the object, again and again, applying the mind to a particular object. So that itself is kind of an attachment, kind of a hindrance, kind of a burden. And now you are abandoning that, and you are kind of firm with the object. So that is the second, where your mind is fairly steady and just be with the object. Now no any kind of a movement happen in the mind. So in order to come to the second jhana, you have to abandon certain aspects. So what we call the jhana factors, 2 jhana factors you have to abandon. And in order to come to the third jhana, you have to abandon even the rapture. That's another jhana factor. If you have to come to fourth jhana, attain fourth jhana, you have to abandon even the happiness, and you have to be quite equanimous. So equanimity is appear like kind of a mature state of mind. Now that is in terms of the samatha. But if we consider, say, mindfulness practice, fair amount of say letting go is there. Now suppose that you are practicing mindfulness on breathing. Now breathing is not an interesting object, isn't it? It's a kind of a boring object. Now while you are trying to keep your mind on the breath, so your mind may distracted towards something interesting. So now you have to let go of that interesting item which mind has recalled, and you have to take it back to the breath, which is not interesting. It's a kind of a struggle in a way. I mean, everywhere, if you closely analyze, the renunciation is there. So, I mean, what your mind is attracted is quite interesting. It is not boring like breath, but you have to abandon that interesting item which mind is recalling, and you have to take the mind back to this boring object, monotonous object. So again and again you have to do it, and again assume that a beautiful song is reminded. So you have to abandon that. Again, you have to take your mind, your attention back to this boring object, just the breath. But interesting point is, so later when the mind is concentrated, this breath appear beautiful. This breath become enjoyable. So it is not kind of an enjoyment coming through the senses, coming through the worldly achievements. Rather, it is because of your mind is uplifted, mind is developed, mind is free from the defilements, hindrances. Now mind has its own freedom, its own kind of, say, happiness, internal happiness. So that is where Buddha is directing us. So rather than trying to satisfy ourselves from various external phenomena, now you are trying to find happiness within yourself. Now, even while walking, the same thing can happen. I mean, say while you are walking, so you might have seen various beautiful things and maybe beautiful others. So, and you may get distracted. Now you have to let go of that and bring your attention back to walking. Walking is also not an interesting object. It is something very ordinary, kind of a boring activity. But practice is there. So you have to again and again bring your attention to walk. So if you practice, say, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana, everywhere, so this attribute is available where even when mind is attracted to some pleasurable things, so you have to think the very first verse that what I have mentioned in Dhammapada. So seeing a better happiness, looking forward some more sublime, noble happiness, now we have to abandon that subtle happiness, this trivial thing. At the moment, mind is attracted to something what you have seen, maybe some beautiful sight. But if you are attracted to that, attached to that, you can't achieve the spiritual goal that you are looking forward. That is more sublime, more mature. more noble. So in that sense, you have to let go of this trivial happiness, this enjoyment, and you have to take it back to the whatever the meditation object. So likewise in the mindfulness practice, so as we progress, so mind become more and more stable, more and more clean, and again, on the other hand, more focused. And later, and even the thoughts, so different kinds of thoughts are there. Now, if you have remember Samma Sankappa, so Michcha Sankappa is also there. I mean, all the different kinds of thoughts related to the sensuality, all the different kinds of thoughts related to the harming others, destroying others. So those are the Michcha Sankappa, wrong thoughts, bad thoughts, we can say. But on the other hand, the right thoughts are the opposite, where you have Nekkamma Vitakka, kind of letting go, then Avyapada Vitakka, where you are having kind of loving kindness, Avihimsa Vitakka, where you are more compassionate. So, I mean, they are also in terms of the thought process, Nekkamma is included. Now, I mean, as we move forward in the Vipassana, now, one time Venerable Ananda come and ask, what is the purpose of investigation and having the proper understanding? Yathabhuta Jnana Dassanam Panabhante Kimatyam King Anisansam. So Venerable Ananda is asking this question from Buddha. Now, you know, once you prepared, or once your mind is fairly concentrated, if you simply stay on that concentration, you may be experiencing some kind of a happiness, maybe jhana and all these different kinds of concentration practices. It also gives you some happiness. But Buddha didn't ask us to be satisfied there. You have to move forward, not just experience the blissful state, rather you have to move forward. That is where the vipassana is coming to the picture, where you are now using the developed concentration to investigate various phenomena and trying to understand the reality. Why? What's the purpose of understanding this reality? So that is the question that Venerable Ananda is asking. Say, you are already have some blissful state of mind, already mind is concentrated, but you are not satisfied. Rather, you are using that concentrated mind to investigate various phenomena, maybe bodily phenomena, maybe feelings, maybe thoughts, maybe certain hidden tendencies. It's a kind of very subtle investigating process. And more you investigate, more you understand the reality, how things are behaving, how impermanent they are, how unsatisfactory they are, and how non-governable they are. Or there is no inner core, there is nothing substantial. So likewise, I mean, these are the different kinds of insights that we are talking in some level of vipassana. So then Venerable Ananda is asking, what is the purpose of this? So then Buddha mentioned, Yatha Bhuta Jnana Dassanam Ko Ananda Nibbida Viragattang Nibbida Viraga Nibbida Viraga Anisansa. Now, when you have this proper understanding, the result is disenchantment and dispassion. Probably you can remember about the person who is blind and who is cheated with a, kind of a cloth which is not beautiful. But later, once he received his eyes, once he had the eyesight, so he understood, I am not wearing a beautiful cloth. It is kind of a, I was cheated. Then immediately, I mean, there is not necessary another person to ask him to give it up, to remove it. He himself has seen it. So similarly here also, so we are attached to so much of things because we didn't understand. Rather, we have wrong understanding, or we have ignorance about the things. But more we investigate, there we get proper understanding. We get in-depth understanding. So more we understand, so the letting go becomes natural. It is not something forceful. So I don't need to force you to give it up. So your mind is not ready to attach. Your mind is not now ready to hold, to grasp. So mind has developed fair amount of understanding. So that understanding will tell you no point of attachment, no point of holding, no point of grasping. That is the interesting point. So that is why Buddha highlights here the purpose and benefit of the knowledge and vision of things as they really are is disenchantment and dispassion. So that is, in another way, we can say, more we have understanding, more we have knowledge, more we have proper understanding on things, our mind is ready to renunciate. Our mind is ready to give up. Our mind is ready to let go. On the other hand, more our mind has delusion, ignorance, more we have attachment, more we have sensual desires, and we are not ready to give up. Now, as we further moving forward, now suppose mind has let go everything, and your mind is now freed, not attached to anything. What are you going to do? So basically, so once everything has given up, everything is, say, abandoned, mind is freed. Now there's an inner urge coming. What next I have to do? What am I going to do? So that is a kind of a shade of that bhava tanha. So our mind is always looking forward, always inclined towards the next moment, not being satisfied 100% in this present moment. So now this bhava tanha is now trying to operate, trying to cheat us, trick us, and it is telling us, okay, you can't just stay here, I mean, without doing anything, let's do something. So that urge has to be given up then. That agitation has to be given up. So if you have more urge, I have to do something, I have to do something, so that agitates the mind. So that urge coming from your heart, that I have to do something, that very desire has to be abandoned. Then only you can be cooled. Then only you can be fully satisfied. Then only you may feel peaceful. Otherwise, even though mind is freed, even though mind is at least temporarily liberated, you can't be at peace. I mean, these are different shades of vipassana that we can think of, that understanding reality of all the different kinds of, say, conditioned phenomena is one aspect. More you have understanding, more the mind is ready to let go of. And once everything is let go of, mind become free, at least temporary. And while being at that freedom, while achieve that freedom, unfortunately, we can't enjoy it. We can't just be there. We are afraid of freedom. Fear of freedom. There's a book called Fear of Freedom. So we are fearful to freedom. I mean, we are trying hard to achieve freedom, and once achieved, not satisfied. Want something more. So here in the renunciation, in this part of vipassana, so we have to just be. Various urges may be coming, but everything has to be abandoned. Those urges have to be abandoned and just be satisfied. I mean, you can imagine what the kind of a teaching that Buddha is telling us. I mean, it's a very beautiful path, kind of an aesthetic path in a way. So you are being motivated to achieve something that is true, that is available in the spiritual side. But that motivation is to abandon craving. Abandon craving. You are motivated to abandon motivation. It's an interesting path. So another interesting point is that how about abandoning I-making, abandoning mind-making, abandoning conceit? So this is another deep aspect available in Vipassana, say very beautifully explained in the Mahapunnama Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. So here, one Venerable is asking, Katam pana bhante janato katam passato imasmincha saviññānake kāye bahiddacha sabba nimittesu ahankara mamankara manannusaya na honti. So basically he's asking, now we get a lot of attachments, lot of I-making, lot of mind-making with respect to even the external phenomena and even to within this very body. Venerable Sir, how does one know? How does one see? So that in regard to this body with its consciousness and all external signs, there is no I making, mind making, and underlying tendency to conceit. So then Buddha mentioned, so whenever mind is trying to claim something is mine, something belong to me, something is attributed to me, at that very moment, you have to remind yourself, this is not mine, this is not myself, and this is not I am. So it's a kind of a reminder, a kind of a triggering. For that, actually you have to be constantly vigilant about what mind is doing. It is not just while you are at the cushion. So you have to be constantly vigilant. So where I making happens time to time, where mind making happens time to time, at that very moment we have to disclaim that very desire, that ego, that I making triggering up in the mind. So we have to check it, we have to properly notice it, rather than enjoying it, rather than promoting it, rather than say strengthening that self-view. So you have to abandon that at that very moment. So it's a very, I mean, now you can see it's a kind of a subtle kind of a process. So previously you are having some, say, concentrated mind and you are putting it to a feeling, for example, and you are investigating. So that's comparatively, it's easy. But here, now mind is freed, but time to time, kind of a thought occur to you. Okay, I did that really beautifully. So I did a marvelous job. I did a marvelous sermon. So that is I making. So kind of a proving that there is a person, telling you that there is a person, hinting you that there is a person. So it's, I mean, if you promote it, what happened? Then you become, you assume that there's a person. You become someone. So you become someone. So that becoming is part of Bhavatanga. So in the Atammeta, that is where Buddha mentioned, don't become someone, don't become something. So where are the mind? Where are the consciousness? Basically, I mean, we can't keep anywhere, as we discussed yesterday. So at last, actually, I like to take this last moment, last slide, where which is available in Dhatuvibhanga Sutta, where Buddha mentioned the Paramo Ariyo Chago. This is the Buddha mentioned the supreme foundation of renunciation or relinquishment. So there Buddha mentioned, Taseva Kopana Pubbe Avidasuno Upadi Honti, Samatta Samadinna, Tyasa Pahina Honti, Uchinna Mula, Tala Vattu Kata, Anubhava Kata, Ayating Anupada Dhamma. Tasma Evang Samanagato Bhikkhu, Imina Paramena Chaga Dithanen Samanagato Hoti. Esohi bhikkhu paramo ariyo chago yadidam sabbupati parinissaggo. So this sabbupati parinissaggo is a synonym for Nibbana. Synonym for Nibbana. Sabbupati parinissaggo. So letting go of all the acquisitions. Letting go of all the acquisitions. So these acquisitions are not the physical acquisitions mainly highlight here. I mean, physical acquisitions are what we already discussed. But in order to make a person, in order to make a self, we are using so much of factors. Maybe your education, maybe how you have your upbringing, or maybe what you have achieved, maybe your children, maybe your social status, family status, maybe the country status, maybe coming from the legends, so much of things. So all these different attributes are making a self. And they are promoting a self whenever we are thinking of all these different things. And so Buddha mentioned the best or the supreme kind of abandonment, supreme kind of relinquishment is this abandoning all these acquisitions. So you have to be careful, you have to be carefully investigate the mind, be vigilant. Whenever eye making happens, thinking about your education. Just an example, say you are a well-educated person and you are so proud about your education because it's a competitive exam, you went to say university say course, and you did it, and you achieved first class, whatever it is, and did a marvelous job, and you develop kind of a sense of self because of this. And later time, say while you are at home, while you are laying down on your bed, a thought occurred to you, oh, I was the best, I did that, I achieved that, I became the first. So what this mind is trying to do, to promote a self, promote a person, telling you that there was you, that was you. Now also you are here. There also at that time there also you. So I mean you are connecting. I mean you are connecting past, the present, and the future, and trying to have a fixed person. This is a kind of an illusion. So I mean, so these kinds of acquisitions, these kind of eye making, this kind of mind making, we have to notice and abandon. So you can imagine why Buddha is telling it as the supreme kind of relinquishment. Because here we are very much like relinquishing ourselves. So much so what we have protected, safeguarded, maybe my reputation, my education, my children, my country, my family, my college, my university, my nation. How many things are there for us, isn't it? And everything is kind of an acquisition, telling you that I am a person, I am an important person, I am a very important person, I'm a VIP. So, so this is the last thing. So Buddha highlight, therefore a bhikkhu possessing this relinquishment possesses the supreme foundation of relinquishment. For this bhikkhu is the supreme noble relinquishment, namely the relinquishing all acquisitions. So that is all actually I have to discuss with you regarding this renunciation. And so this is a very interesting subject, and we typically think that this is just giving up our household life and just become a monk. But you can understand now, I mean, there's a broader depth and broader aspect to renunciation, and it is basically available in the meditation, maybe in the mindfulness practice, maybe even in the samatha practice, and deeply available in the vipassana practice at different levels, at different depths. So with that note, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon, and probably now we can spend some time in meditation. So I'm trying to guide you for a few minutes for guided sitting. May you sit in a comfortable position. So try to be comfortable, have a relaxed body, and also have a relaxed mind. So don't think that we have to do a big job. It's a matter of coming back to ourselves, connecting with ourselves. You can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. And now you can gently close, gently close your eyes. Again, you can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. Slowly settle yourself to your body. As you know, our mind can drift towards the past. Again, it can drift towards the future, but our body remains in the present. So we are taking this advantage that the body is always in the present, and we are again and again bringing our attention back to the body so that our mind also stays in the present. If your mind get distracted towards anything happened in the past, don't encourage it, don't enjoy it. bring your attention back to the body. Similarly, if your mind gets distracted towards anything going to happen in the future, any expectation, don't encourage it. Slowly bring your attention back to the body. The body experience probably may be boring, but it is not mind-made. Remember, it is not something imaginary. It is happening right now. It is completely present. So we are now trying to pay our attention to this momentary experience, present moment experience. You can see whether you can recognize what I am mentioning here. Your eyes are gently closed and your lips are gently touching. There's a slight touching sensation. And you are not keeping your jaws tightly coupled, rather they are released. There is no any tension in the facial muscles, facial tissues. And since we are trying to be confident, be happy of the present moment, if you like, you can have a slight smile. And keep your head straight, neck straight, and shoulders in a relaxed position. Your arms may be resting on your lap or maybe resting on your knees. And there is no any tightness in your arms. And probably you can feel how your clothes are touching your body. Certain areas may be tight, certain areas little relaxed, certain areas have little heaviness. So our clothes, what we wear, making a little bit of sensations. Probably we can recognize them. And if you pay close attention to your buttocks, there is pressure. There may be little heaviness at your buttocks. And your legs are bent and legs muscles are relaxed. And we are comfortably sitting, not standing, not lying down, not walking, but comfortably sitting. Again, you can take a deep breath, hold it for a while, and then release. Now you can keep your attention at the nostril. Try to recognize in breath, try to recognize out breath. Keep it very simple. And just assign a duty to your mind not to miss any breath, not to miss any in breaths, not to miss any out breaths. If your mind is fairly tamed, fairly concentrated, now you can try to investigate subtle differences of in-breath and out-breath. Maybe in-breath is cooler, out-breath is warmer. In-breath could be longer, out-breath could be shorter. Or in-breath may be shorter, out-breath could be longer. During the in-breath, you may feel some sensation at one place. During the out-breath, probably you might feel sensations at different places. So these different subtle aspects of breathing, now you can investigate. If your mind further concentrates, fairly calm down, fairly focused, now you can try to recognize the complete in-breath and complete out-breath. How in-breath begins, how is it growing to the middle, and how is it fading away. And there could be a slight gap just before the out-breath. And then the beginning of the out-breath, middle of the out-breath, and the end of the out-breath. And there is a gap just before the next in-breath. Now we are carefully investigating this whole process without any doubts, without any agitation, without thinking about the past and future, just closely examining the complete in-breath, the complete out-breath. Okay, I think now hope you can hear.
Yes, Bante, we
Sarika?
can hear you. Yes, we can hear you,
Fine.
Bante.
Fine. So now we can, if there are any questions from the audience, we can spend few minutes uh, answering those questions. Or if there are no such questions, we can wind up the session.
Bante, and until someone come up with a question, basically this the Kamatanna, Bhavatanna, Vibhavatanna, and I feel like all these three is kind of like a together most of the time. Uh, am I right?
Correct. That's what I was trying to explain. I mean, there's a close relationship. Now, say, for example, you have a desire to become someone, because that you are not satisfied who you are right now.
Yeah.
So that means you want to get rid of who you are right now, and you have to become someone new, someone different than who you are right now. That means desire to get rid of promotes desire to become, or desire to become has a, kind of a hidden desire to get rid of. Currently, you are not satisfied, you are not happy as you who you are, so you want to become someone, and you think that after you becoming that particular person, you will be happy. An interesting point is, while now while you are in going through this process, becoming process, you are trying to achieve it by satisfying senses. I mean, say at the moment you are not happy because things are a little boring, and you feel, if I am able to achieve some happiness through satisfying my eyes, then I'll be happy. So the desire to become is there. But internally, I have a desire to enjoy my eyes as well. So therefore, as you mentioned, so these are fairly interrelated. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, fairly interrelated. So Buddha has explained it for our easy understanding as three components, and so that we can, we can further, investigate it in that sense. And but they are closely related. Yes.
Thank you, Bante.
Yeah. Okay, it seems like there is no any other question. So I think we have spent fair amount of time in the Dhamma discussion and spent some times in practice. So I like to conclude today's session. Thank you very much for participation, and the merit that we have accrued, let's share with all the past relatives, and we share these merits with all the celestial beings, and we share these merits with all the beings who are in need of merits. And these merits may help us also to achieve path fruition nibbana. So with that good wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ittavata hehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe devanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata hehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe bhutanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata hehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe sattanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasatha ca Bummatha Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Sasanang. Akasatha ca Bummatha Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Desanang. Akasatha ca Bummatha Devanaga Mahittika Punyantang Anumoditva Chirang Rakhantu Mamparang. Idang wo nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo. Idang wo nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo. Idang wo nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.